Everyone at the Grand Whitmore mansion believed little Emma wouldn't live past her 9th birthday. Doctors had given up, specialists had failed, and her millionaire father was ready to buy the whole world if it could give his daughter one more breath of life. But no one, not even him, imagined that the fragile girl's miracle would come from a woman who arrived at their door with torn shoes, trembling hands, and a secret she carried in her heart. If this story touched your heart, show your love, like, share, and comment your thoughts. The Whitmore mansion stood tall over the hills of Somerset, its walls echoing with silence and sorrow. Inside, Emma Whitmore, 8 years old, pale, fragile, her golden hair fading into lifeless strands, lay on a bed surrounded by medical machines. Her father, Richard Whitmore, sat beside her every night, staring helplessly at the child he loved more than his own life. Richard was a man who had everything, money, power, and a business empire that stretched across continents. But he had lost his wife, Clara, during childbirth. Since then, Emma had been the center of his world, and his deepest pain. She was born with a rare heart condition that no doctor could cure. Every breath she took seemed borrowed from time itself. He had hired the best doctors, imported medicines that cost more than houses, even funded new research programs, but Emma's condition only worsened. She could barely walk across her room without gasping for air. When her last nurse resigned out of exhaustion, the household manager, Mrs. Green, placed an ad for a new nanny, not expecting much. But one rainy afternoon, a woman arrived. Her name was Lily Parker. She was young, maybe in her late 20s, with quiet eyes that carried both kindness and sorrow. Her dress was plain, her coat worn at the edges, and her shoes soaked through. She looked nothing like the professionals who had come before her. Mrs. Green frowned. "You don't look very experienced." Lily smiled faintly. "Experience is not always written on paper, ma'am. Sometimes, it's written in the heart." Those words struck something in Richard when he overheard them. There was something about her, a calmness that seemed rare. Against all advice, he hired her. If she fails, he told himself, at least Emma will have one more person who truly cares. From the first day, Emma resisted Lily. The little girl barely spoke, often turning her face to the wall. "You'll leave too," she whispered one night. "Everyone leaves when I get worse." But Lily didn't leave. She sat beside Emma's bed for hours, reading stories softly, singing lullabies she remembered from her own childhood. When Emma couldn't sleep, Lily would hold her hand and hum until dawn. She brought sunlight into the room, not through wealth or medicine, but through patience and love. Days turned into weeks, and something began to change. Emma started smiling again. She laughed at Lily's silly jokes and insisted that Lily join her tea parties with stuffed animals. Even her doctor noticed improvement. Her oxygen levels were steadier, her color brighter. Richard couldn't explain it. "What are you doing differently?" he asked one evening, watching Lily braid Emma's hair by the window. Lily looked at him, her expression gentle but firm. "Sometimes the heart doesn't just need medicine, Mr. Whitmore. It needs to feel safe, loved, and alive." Maybe Emma just needed someone to remind her how to live again. He didn't know how to respond, but her words lingered in his heart. For the first time in years, he heard his daughter's laughter echo through the halls. However, not everyone was pleased. Some of the mansion staff whispered that Lily was too close to the girl, that she was using emotion to win favor. A few even accused her of stealing medicines or faking improvement. Richard ignored the gossip, but doubts began to stir when he noticed Lily sometimes sneaking out late at night. One stormy night, he followed her. She walked down the hill to a small, broken cottage near the woods. Through the cracked window, he saw her sitting by a flickering candle, counting coins from a jar, barely enough for food. Then he saw something that froze him, a small photograph on her table of a little boy. The child looked pale, weak, his hair patchy from treatment. The next morning, he confronted her. "Who is that boy?" he demanded. Lily hesitated, her eyes filled with tears. "My son," she whispered. His name was Oliver. He died 2 years ago from the same condition Emma has. Richard's chest tightened. "The same condition?" She nodded. "I couldn't afford the treatments. I watched him fade away in my arms. I promised myself that if I ever met another child like him, I would do whatever it took to help them live the life he never could." Her voice broke. "I can't bring Oliver back, sir. But maybe I can save your daughter. Richard turned away, ashamed of the suspicion he'd felt. For the first time, he saw her not as an employee, but as a mother who had already lost everything. Weeks passed, and Emma continued to improve, beyond all medical expectation. She could walk again, run short distances, even dance in the garden with Lily. The doctors called it unexplainable progress. But Richard knew what it was, the power of compassion. However, the peace didn't last. One evening, Emma collapsed suddenly while playing in the garden. Her heartbeat dropped, her breathing turned shallow. Panic filled the mansion. Richard rushed her to the hospital, where doctors said her condition had worsened overnight, her heart was failing. Lily refused to leave Emma's side. She held the child's hand and prayed silently. Richard sat outside the room, feeling powerless once again. Hours later, Lily came out, tears streaming down her face. "There's one last thing we can try," she said shakily. "A heart procedure, experimental. But they need a donor for the plasma match, and I'm compatible." Richard's eyes widened. "That could be dangerous for you." "I know," she said softly. "But I lost one child already. I won't lose another." Despite the doctor's warnings, Lily insisted. The procedure was long and risky. Richard paced outside for hours, each minute feeling like eternity. When the doors finally opened, the doctor smiled faintly. "Emma is stable." The treatment worked, miraculously. But when Richard looked past him, he saw Lily lying unconscious on a nearby stretcher, pale as snow. She had given more than just her blood, she had given her strength, her life's last hope. For 3 days, she remained in a coma. Richard visited her daily, holding her hand and whispering, "You saved my daughter. Please, come back." On the 4th day, her eyes fluttered open. The first thing she asked was, "How's Emma?" Richard smiled through tears. "She's waiting to see you." The reunion was something no one forgot. Emma ran into Lily's arms, sobbing, "You came back. I knew you wouldn't leave me." Even the staff who once doubted Lily cried silently. Months later, Emma was declared healthy enough to live a normal life. Richard built a small clinic in Oliver's name, the Oliver Heart Center, dedicated to helping children with rare heart conditions, all free of cost. During the opening ceremony, Richard stood before the crowd, his voice thick with emotion. "I once thought money could buy miracles," he said, looking at Lily and Emma standing together. "But I learned that true miracles come from hearts that give, not from wallets that pay." He turned toward Lily, his voice trembling. "You didn't just save my daughter, Lily. You saved me, from losing faith in love, in kindness, in life itself." The crowd applauded, but Lily simply smiled. "I didn't do the impossible, Mr. Whitmore," she whispered. "I just loved her enough to make her believe she could live." As the evening sun set behind the clinic, Emma ran through the garden, her laughter echoing once again, full of life, full of hope. And Lily watched her, tears in her eyes, feeling her son's spirit in the wind. For in saving one child, she had finally healed the broken part of her own heart. True miracles don't come from wealth or science alone, they come from love, sacrifice, and the courage to give when you have nothing left. Because sometimes, the most powerful medicine in the world is a kind heart.